Have you ever seen a film fail so badly that the lead actress had to sit in a deserted theater to take it all in? Rachel Zegler, who starred in more than simply Disney's Snow White, experienced just that. Since the film's second weekend box office performance and reviews, she starred in one of the most vicious Hollywood disasters ever witnessed. It was a calamity that defined my career. From co-star feuds to political campaigns in addition to burning bridges, Rachel set the entire kingdom on fire. Now, after months of dragging this movie through every issue imaginable, Rachel Zegler lost it all after Snow White bombed on when the lead actress arrives for her own film and the room is so quiet you can hear popcorn kernels crying. You know the flop is real. Rachel took her pals to what appeared to be a private showing rather than a big Disney premiere, probably for moral support. Her claim that they simply rented out the entire theater was likely defended by fans, but I'm not sure. It seems like everyone is sharing videos of theaters that are empty. There was nobody there even when I had to go watch, and Rachel also recorded themselves purchasing the tickets. Thus, this is simply ridiculous, and Instagram saw it all, transforming what ought to have been a celebration into a joke. "Hey guys, come watch me tank my career in 4K vibes" was all that these videos conveyed. For instance, when someone tries to defuse the controversy or make it appear cool by pretending to be part of the joke, you know yes, that didn't work in this case. It only made everything more absurd. Since the figures are awful, let's talk about them after the second weekend of the film. Disney reportedly spent $370 million to create and promote Snow White. Approximately $400 million was spent in an attempt to transform a well-loved classic into a contemporary morality story. What did they receive in exchange for that $370 million? A $43 million opening with audience walkouts. Dumbo even fared better than this. And that elephant actually flew out of theaters. As a result, Snow White saw a sharp 66% drop in ticket sales in its second weekend, earning $14.2 million and dropping to second place behind the action movie A Hardworking Man, which, incidentally, had 1,000 fewer theaters and no big name like Disney behind it.
Just think about that.
A straightforward action film fared better than Disney's most famous fairy tale, which had been out for 2 weeks, than A Working Man, which had only been out for 1. Even The Chosen Last Supper, which had half as many theaters, nearly surpassed Snow White. However, when considering average revenue, both films do better than Snow White. Next week, Minecraft will be released, therefore no, Snow White is finished. The movie's total gross as of March 30th, 2025, was roughly $66.9 million in the US and Canada, with an additional $75.8 million from other countries, for a global total of about $142.8 million. Snow White has officially been blasted because she doesn't care about breaking even. Analysts predict that the film would lose more than $100 million, but to make matters worse, it also completely collapsed, at one time dropping to as low as $1.50 out of 10 on IMDb. It's not simply awful. That's why we should remove this film from the annals of history. Additionally, this is the same studio that created the multi-billion-dollar Lion King remake. However, for Snow White, whole theaters were deserted. Prior to the premiere, Rachel proudly stated that people would queue to watch her films, so it's kind of hilarious that people were displaying seat maps with more blue than the ocean. And that did age brilliantly.
Every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Yes, they did wait in queue to purchase tickets for events other than Snow White. Since Rachel Zegler didn't only act in the film, it was like the cosmos dumping on her in 4K when that footage reappeared. She talked it into the ground, referring to the 1937 original as strange and peculiar, claimed that the story needed to be altered, and dragged the prince for being a weirdo.
Weird.
Disney diehards who grew up with the original fairy tale were offended by that alone. She then went one step further and advised whole political parties not to see the movie. You're the star of a family film, not a political campaign, bro. Ignore the fact that she advised about half of the nation not to see the film.
The reality is that the cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who...
but I suppose they paid attention. Political beliefs are perfectly okay, but she could have kept them apart from a classic family film. And as everyone is aware by now, there is tension between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, which led to Disney strengthening security after receiving numerous death threats and hate mail after Rachel's post. However, things worsened when Rachel made an odd remark about Gull being a pageant queen and then completely ignored her in an emotional Instagram post thanking the cast. You choose the shade or coincidence. Because after everything Rachel Zegler has been through, I wouldn't be shocked if Gal Gadot had a small smile on her face. Because Disney's public relations team was now putting out flames like it was their full-time job. According to reports, they hired a social media expert to oversee Rachel's posts, but that was like attempting to watch over a tornado. Her criticism of the original, which insulted fans and caused her film to become embroiled in controversy, had already made her go viral. When the producer needs to fly out just to speak with you one-on-one about your behavior, you know something is wrong. According to reports, Spielberg even arched an eyebrow at how out of control everything had become. Everything was completely out of control. Fans didn't buy it and the damage was done. Of all, actions have consequences, so it appeared that Hollywood began to ignore Rachel after she had to publish an apology that was so out of character for her that it might as well have included Mickey Mouse's autograph at the bottom. According to rumors, she was supposed to voice a character in Toy Story 5 Cut and co-star alongside Plumhouse in the Pirates of the Caribbean Gone horror trilogy. Apparently, no one wants to collaborate with someone who brings more turmoil than box office earnings, so no more. However, Rachel wrote after the failure that Snow White changed her life and made her feel emotional. However, with the empty theater posts, the awkward online quiet over Gal Gadot, and the constant damage control, the meltdown was essentially finished. Nowadays, the movie serves as a joke about Disney's identity crisis. And once seemingly poised for success, Rachel Zegler has turned into a living example of how quickly Hollywood can turn against you when you combine ego politics with a $370 million fairy tale. Baby, it's Hollywood. Thus, she didn't simply have a difficult press tour. She descended into a complete public catastrophe by starting arguments with fans, inciting conflict with her co-stars, and showing her own film in a deserted theater. Because Rachel is currently the star of a movie that has been mired in fan criticism, memes, and studio regrets, tell me in the comments, please. Until the next time, keep in mind that a fairy tale ending doesn't always come with a happily ever after, especially if you're Rachel Zegler. Is this the end of Rachel Zegler, or does she have a chance to redeem herself after this royal disaster?
Calm.